So I've been seeing a lot of videos going around about people sharing their rapture dreams. So I wanted to get up here and share the latest one that I had, which was hands down the most boring one I've ever had, yet possibly the best one because of the little caveat behind it, if I'm using that word correctly. Um, so I was watching a video that a girl shared, and no, I don't remember who it was, but she was sharing a clip of a guy, looked to be like late teens, early 20s maybe, who was very emotional, who said he had just been praying for some lost loved ones, and he was at the end of his prayer, and he felt like that, God said, or Jesus said, "Yeah, I have a message for you that I want you to spread to other people." Basically, this message, if he had said, this is especially dedicated to some woman named Kat, she may or may not have a Jeep or something, I would have believed it, because literally like a couple of hours before I saw this video, I was saying things to myself like, I see the signs. I see all these signs that are happening. I know a lot of things are happening that Jesus told us to look for, but Jesus, if you could just give me a sign, I just need a sign. Even though I'm seeing all these signs, but I just need a better sign. And then a couple hours later, I'm watching a video where a guy basically says that Jesus told him that he's giving all the signs he told us to look for. He is showing signs of the sun and the moon and the stars. Everything he said to look out for, he is showing us. And yet half the church is still asleep and don't realize the season that they're in. And basically that he doesn't know what else to do. He doesn't know what else he can do to show us that he is coming back. I felt that in my core. That was actually very convicting. So convicting, as a matter of fact, that after watching that, I said, Lord, I know, I'm one of them. I'm seeing everything you told us to look for, and I'm still asking for more. But I got one favor, one little. Could you just give me like here? Look, if you told that guy all of that, and also I think this may verify that he was telling the truth. I was like, if you could tell him all of that, could you just let me have a dream about the rapture tonight, if it is in fact close, and nothing personal, but like close by like human standards, because time doesn't really work the same for you. So if it is close, just please let me have a dream about the rapture tonight, whether I'm just talking to somebody about it, whatever it may be. And then please let me remember it, because I have like these storyboard dreams. I mean, it's almost like movies with like a plot and everything, but I'll wake up and I'm desperately trying to remember it, and it just falls out of my head basically. So that night I go to sleep, and I start dreaming that I'm standing beside my bedroom window and I'm holding my phone, and I'm talking about what I think is going to happen when the rapture happens. And I'm talking about that I think there are going to be earthquakes like all around the globe, like the whole world is essentially going to have an earthquake. And I have the earthquake app. So I was like, I wonder if like the earthquake app's going to be going off. It's going to be like bling, 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 then it's just going to like overload and probably crash because the whole world is going to have an earthquake. And then about that time, I stop and I feel the floor start to tremble. And I think to myself, is the rapture happening? And about that time, my friend here, Diaz, um, decided to start trying to tear the bedroom door down. So I woke up immediately. And my first reaction was kind of upset, like, hey, Diaz, I was in the middle of a rapture dream and you woke me up. And then I remembered the request that I made to Jesus that night. And sure enough, I had a dream about the rapture. So that's another thing, I guess, that could be, I mean, by itself, maybe not such a big deal. But on top of everything else that's going on in the world right now, it seems to be a whole lot of coincidences that are adding up. And I'm one of those people that believes when you're a child of God, not much of anything is a coincidence. I mean, we've got what's going on in the Middle East. I mean, that's been going, this is the third year, as a matter of fact, that this war started on October 7th in 2023. The technology for the beast system is here. In fact, in some countries, they're already giving it to people. It's just not mandatory yet. But they've already created something that's about the size of a grain of rice, maybe a little smaller, that goes between the index finger and the thumb. And they use it essentially to pay for things. They just swipe their hand over the reader instead of a card. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, love of many growing cold, false prophets, false teachers, and I still don't think he's the Antichrist, by the way. But our president just posted something essentially showing him as Jesus. He said he thought it was showing him as a healer or a doctor. How many people do we know of in history that could heal people by laying hands on them? And that was definitely a weird looking set of scrubs he was wearing, I guess, if he genuinely thought he was just showing him as a doctor. The false prophets, the church, hardly preaching the real message of the gospel anymore, softening their message because they'd rather have money than be telling people the truth. Earthquakes in various places that don't normally get earthquakes, extreme weather conditions. I'm also a weather nerd, so I've heard many meteorologists say that it's just never been like this before. And if you notice, you don't really hear about thunderstorms anymore. It's not just thunderstorms. There's tornado outbreaks. There's PDS thunderstorms, which is a particularly dangerous situation. 500-year floods happening, 4 times a week. I mean, and this is about the third year I've noticed of that happening too. I mean, just crazy weather that normally we don't see. But the thing is, even with all of those signs, it's still so easy to say, well, and again, why I was still, walking around even after seeing that video that completely convicted me, because literally 2 hours earlier, I was doing that exact thing. It's really difficult when you have other believers that believe in the rapture, by the way, that belittle you for thinking it's close, that say that, no, all these things have happened before. This is not a big deal at all. This is not a big thing at all. Back in 1906, President Washington Carterton was shot the big toe and lived, and there was, a 6-point earthquake in East Nebrahoma, and, there was some volcano in Hawaii erupted for a minute, and, this has all happened before. And it's really difficult when that comes from a fellow believer, B, a fellow believer that's maybe a little more well-read than you are, a little more educated than you are. It can be really difficult. And that's, I think, one of the main things that gets us asking for more signs and more proof. So I still say there are things going on now that are converging, that's all coming together, that make this year, I think, a really good candidate for something big, spiritually speaking, to happen. In fact, back in 2023, when we were nearing the end of the year, I remember I had this thought that was so depressing at the time, because I didn't see how I would make it to 2026. But I remember the end of the year thinking, you know what? If the rapture doesn't happen this year, I don't think we have another good chance until 2026. That'll be 3 years since October 7th happened. According to Strong's Concordance, the number 26 is the number of Yahweh. Well, 7 plus 26 is 33. A lot of theologians say that they believe Jesus was crucified and rose again on AD 33, but that's not really the significance I'm looking for. That he was 33 years of age when he was crucified and rose again. So it just kind of makes sense. He rose from the grave when he was that age, and maybe it was AD 33 as well. I mean, if it was, that's just another really odd coincidence, if it is in fact a coincidence. But I could just see the second coming being in 2033. We keep hearing about this Agenda 2030, which basically sounds like a new world order where they want a one world government, one world currency, one world religion. In other words, beast system. And if the tribulation were to start this year, especially like late this year, well, the halfway point would be around 2030, right? And they seem to be really desperate to push this agenda and have it done by 2030. Another coincidence? Don't know. If it is, there are a lot of coincidences going on. I also argue that as far as, things happening in the past that seem to coincide with the rapture and the second coming, well, the technology for the beast system wasn't there. And there's someone that, bless his heart, I think the world of him. I think the absolute world of him. And he says he believes in the rapture. And he believes it's pre-trib. But he has got an argument for every single thing I put in front of him. And I was like, well, what about the mark of the beast? The technology for the mark of the beast hasn't been here. And he's, oh, no. The Bible just says it's a mark. It could be a tattoo for all we know. That does not mean, there's no indicator that it is of any kind of technological, making. But the fact that it says you're going to need it to buy and sell and things like that makes me think it is something technological. And then you see that they already have this thing created that goes between the thumb and the index finger, and it's got all your information on it, and you pay with it. And I just feel like that's kind of it. Because if it's just a simple tattoo, well, I mean, you pick a Sharpie pen and draw a mark on your hand or your head, and you could get a little, mark of the beast henna tattoo or something. I mean, I think it's going to have to be something a little more complicated than that. It's something that's literally, if you don't have it, you're not going to be able to make it in society. So I do believe that that is a technology that, had to be made possible before the second coming. And then my other thing is, it's like maybe these people just need to admit that they're rapture deniers at this point. I mean, the fact that it hasn't happened yet, somehow it translates to it can't be happening now, or it can't be about to happen. Okay, well, what does the Bible compare the lead up to the rapture, second coming, end times, whatever? What does the Bible compare it to? Labor pains. Okay, well, how do labor pains usually work out? Start off small, few and far between, not too bad, more annoying than anything probably, but nothing you can't deal with. But the further along you get, the closer you get to the baby actually being born, they get more painful, they get more frequent, until next thing you know, I mean, you don't even have time, you don't even have room to breathe anymore. I mean, you're just bam, 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 And that's what's been going on. So, I mean, the Bible doesn't describe the lead up to the second coming as everything is wonderful one day and horrific the next. It suggests that at first, every now and then something big is going to happen. And then you won't really hear about anything else for a while. And eventually, when we're at the end, it's going to be just every time you turn around, something big is happening. And that's what's going on. I mean, with all of it, with the weather, with, wars and rumors of war, with, hatred between different people, all of it. It's just, it seems every day there's something. So that makes me think that, well, sure things happened before now that made people think, oh, this could be it, this could be it. But they weren't happening on this level and at this rate. So I don't understand, the point these people are making. Are they saying that because it hasn't happened yet, it's just not going to? I don't understand the point they're trying to make. So I am hoping. Oh, and by the way, speaking of the guy on YouTube that I saw, the one that said, pretty much spoke pretty much directly to me. And then I turned around and asked Jesus for another sign because that's just what I do, apparently. I know it can be really easy to dismiss people that you hear online talking about things like that. And there are a great deal of theologians that truly believe because we now have the Bible, God doesn't communicate with us anymore. He doesn't reveal himself to people anymore. You want God to reveal himself? Pick up a Bible. Well, not everybody has access to Bibles like we do here in the West. And not everybody feels a need to pick up a Bible. And so some people, maybe they need something. Maybe they need something they kind of put their finger on. Something to inspire them to pick up the Bible. And there's far more incidents in the Bible of God revealing himself to people than hiding from people. Of course, they'll also quickly say that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Well, then you can't have it both ways. God used to literally walk the earth with his people. He used to speak to them audibly. But now anything today, anything that the Shroud of Turin, anything they find today that could give a skeptic, physical proof, well, that can't be from God. That just can't be. I'd be careful. I'd be careful believing things like that. And sure, be skeptical. Whatever you hear, whatever you see, compare it to what you see in the Bible. I've yet to run across the verse that says, once the Bible's published, I'm going to hide. And if anyone wants to find me, they got to read the Bible. Some people need a little inspiration to read the Bible. So that being said, the Bible also talks about in the end times, and this is something else they just dismiss. I don't know why. But the Bible speaks very clearly about in the end times, the Lord pouring his Spirit out on all people. Men, women, and children will prophesy, dream dreams, see visions. And again, while it can be really easy to just completely dismiss someone you see online saying they have a message from Jesus, well, if they weren't sharing these stories online, how would we even know that it was happening? So again, be skeptical. Don't believe everyone that says they got a word from the Lord. But I wouldn't be so quick to just completely dismiss everyone either, because the Bible said this was going to happen. The Bible said people were going to prophesy, see visions, dream dreams. And I mean, unless it is happening to you personally, how would you know it was happening if these people weren't talking about it on a platform where everyone could see it? So I'm remaining hopeful that that dream, that was a really big deal to me. And some could argue, well, you're that's probably where your mind was when you went to sleep. I mean, sure. It's a possibility, but I've I've asked for rapture dreams frequently, just because I maybe just had kind of a bad day, and rapture dreams always wake up happy after having one. And I actually went a solid year and didn't have a rapture dream. And I was really worried because that actually happened after I stopped smoking. And I thought, oh my gosh, because I used to have them all the time when I was smoking, and I'm sure there's a joke there somewhere. But I thought, oh my gosh, he was letting me have those dreams when I was doing something he didn't want me to be doing, because maybe it's not real, or maybe I'm not right on the timing. Maybe it is mid-trib. Maybe it is, And then after about a year, I had a dream about the rapture. And they've been kind of few and far between since then. But I believe that that was the Lord letting me know that time is in fact short. And again, if it's a coincidence, it is one coincidence out of so many coincidences. And I'm really tired. I know a lot of people are really tired. Peter tells us that, whatever you're going through, know that the brethren are going through it too. That everyone right now is suffering with something. I have a son who is not doing very well. So, anyone who who thinks to maybe pray about him, please do so. I'm things aren't great at home, and that's something I'm really struggling with, or have been really struggling with, because the Bible speaks about, if you have a spouse that's lost and they're willing to stay with you, let them stay, because maybe you'll win them over by your conduct. But it also says if you have someone claiming to be a brother or sister in Christ, but they still live like the world, have nothing to do with them. It also speaks about being unevenly yoked. And the same cluster of verses where it talks about allowing a lost spouse to stay in your life if they're willing, it also says we're called to live in peace. And Jesus gave many examples when he was here, especially to the Pharisees, who flipped out every time he healed somebody on the Sabbath. And he said, which one of you, if he had a sheep fall into a pit, would not get it out, even on the Sabbath? Which kind of seems to suggest that sometimes there are situations that warrant, maybe bending the law a little bit. There are many more verses in the Bible that suggest we should not be yoked to people who still love the darkness. And I was, last night when I was praying, I pretty much on my hands and knees bawling, because I've been really, really confused about this. And I know it's a shot in the dark. I knew it was a shot in the dark, but I just begged the Lord, please give me a sign. I mean, a clear-cut sign as to what to do in my situation. And this morning I woke up And there was a time that when I woke up, first thing I did was grab my phone and check Facebook. First thing I did. Because, if anything happened overnight worth talking about, it's going to be on Facebook. I'm actually not on Facebook much anymore. I don't check it first thing in the morning. Sometimes days go by before I check it. I'm just kind of sick of what I'm seeing up there, honestly. I do nonetheless pick up my phone first thing in the morning. Usually first thing I check are the earthquakes. And then I check the weather. But Facebook has not been a priority of mine at all. So I pick up the phone, check the earthquakes, check the weather, start to put it back down, and something just said, check Facebook. And I check Facebook. And the first post is an image of, it looked like, I'm sure it's probably supposed to be an ox or something. It looked like a cow or a bull with a yoke, and he's in the field. And you can see he's struggling. And he's struggling because he's pulling a dead cow that's still attached to him. And the whole post was about being unevenly yoked. And about how, spouses have met, an untimely end because they were told they had no choice but to stay with a spouse that was lost, even though they were being abused. And abuse isn't just physical, by the way. Abuse is emotional, verbal, financial. Abuse can come in many forms. If someone has spent much of the relationship tearing you down and trying to make you think that you can't trust your own two eyes, who are you going to trust, baby? Me or your lying eyes? And they're purposely trying to confuse you to that point. That's abuse. And they're tearing you down. And they're not building you up. And I don't see, all the verses I've seen about marriage, nowhere have I seen it's okay to stay with someone that is, for one, abusing you, two, tearing you down and trying to make you question your own two eyes just so they can deceive you and get their way and not face any accountability. I don't see that anywhere. And actually, before I saw the post this morning about the being unevenly yoked and essentially dragging dead weight, I was doing my Bible reading the other morning and I forgot what it was I saw. Sorry, bad memory. Epilepsy does nothing good for the brain. I don't remember what it was, but it just came to me that this cannot be my cross to bear. This cannot be my cross to bear. Maybe it was. Maybe it even is for a little while longer. But to suggest that being in this kind of a relationship is what Jesus wants for me is to suggest that this is what he wants for my husband for the rest of his life. I know, buddy. And I don't believe that either. But if this is, if this is just who someone is, especially if they're claiming to be born again, and you're just seeing absolutely no sign of it, and they're still just tearing you down, still telling you you're crazy, you're not seeing what you're seeing, you're not hearing what you're hearing, and there is absolutely no sign, like actions, not words. I don't mean they talk a little softer, they open their eyes a little wider. I mean actions. Something you could put your finger on and say, yes, that is different. That is different. And that is different in a good way. If you're not seeing that, and everybody's got to pray and ask for wisdom and discernment in their own situation. But one thing I'm thinking about in particular is I read a comment on Watchman Rivers' video. It's probably been a couple months, where a woman said that she's in an abusive marriage and that the husband is lost, and that she's essentially, asking for prayers for him. And yes, please pray for our spouses. Some of us are not okay out here. Certainly pray, but you can pray for someone from a distance. And if there's any chance that that woman sees this video, if you're waiting for a sign to say that you don't have to keep putting up with this, and you've still not seen any improvement, and you feel you're losing yourself, and you're a shell of your former self, I'm gonna give you the advice I'd give myself. Work towards getting out. Keep praying, but work towards getting out. And if he genuinely changes before you can get out, wonderful. If you can forgive and keep pressing forward, forgive and keep pressing forward. Should the rapture happen before you're able to get out, wonderful. Maybe you were there, especially for any of you that has a spouse claiming to be born again, but you're just not seeing it in their actions. Maybe you were there to be the proof that they're not born again. And maybe for some, it's going to take being left behind to wake them up. And as awful as being left behind, I'm sure, is going to be, that still beats dying in your sins and spending eternity in hell. I mean, frankly, if I wasn't truly born again, but thought I was, and I missed the rapture, and had the time to repent, I mean, that would be far better than dying thinking I'm okay and I'm secure, and being told, depart from me, I never knew you. Because those are still, I think, the scariest words I've ever read in the Bible, and I can't imagine hearing them. So speaking of salvation, for one, if you're sitting here and you think you are born again, but you're still doing all the things you were doing before you were born again, and you have no remorse, you make excuses, I would be concerned. And I know that there are a lot of theologians out there that say, they're very much against the whole, asking Jesus into your heart thing. And don't get me wrong, I went to a Baptist school for much of my life, much of my school life anyway. And that school turned out a lot of false converts. And they did the whole, ask Jesus into your heart thing. But see, what they also did was tell terrifying stories that just shook us to our cores. So when they said, so, anybody want to be saved? Come to the altar. I mean, people are like knocking each other down. Because kind of what they made us think was, if you don't get saved, this really horrific story I just told you, yeah, that could be you. And I think that's the main thing that created all the false converts. Even Revelation speaks about, Jesus says, I will come into him and dine with him. I fully recommend, and I intend on making a video just about the gospel. I fully recommend, if you're not born again or you have questions, verbally surrender your life to Jesus. Verbally ask him to come into your life and to give you a new heart and a new mind and new thoughts and new desires. Verbally give your life to him. Yes, you must believe he is who he said he is. You must believe that he died and that he defeated death and rose again on the third day. You must believe that his sins, wow, that his blood washes away your sins, that our sins were put on him, and that he fulfilled the law on our behalf because we never could have. Sure, you got to believe all that. And you have to be sincere. You can't just rattle off some words and it be, fire insurance, essentially. Your heart has to be in it. All of that. Faith alone. Is it faith alone? In grace alone? Through Christ alone? Sure. But the Bible also talks about, you say you believe. Well, the demons believe and they tremble. So basically, you believe Jesus is God, you believe he died and rose again. That's nice. The demons believe it too. Shoot, they know it. But they're in hell. So, I may be I may be totally off here. And I'm sure it really depends on where your heart is. And if you're sincere or not, or if you're just doing something in hopes of, having a better eternity. But my advice would be verbally surrender your life to Jesus. Verbally invite him into your heart. Verbally give him reign over your life. Not, I don't know, it's just, I two people that I'm really close to just did the, I believe, and they're not doing so well. Again, that doesn't mean that, it didn't take for anyone that went that route. I would just say to be on the safe side, and regardless of what you do, make sure you're sincere. So, I guess kind of ending it on something of a somber note. But hang on, brothers and sisters. I know it's hard. I know it's, like I said, we're all suffering. We're all dealing with something. Just as difficult as it may be some days, go to your room, your little place, wherever it may be. Talk to Jesus. Give your problems to him, even if you have to give your problems to him over and over again. Just keep giving them to him until, you could give them to him and leave it with him. And if you are in an abusive marriage, again, and the only reason you're staying is because you believe you have to. I don't think that's your cross to bear. I don't think an abusive marriage is anyone's cross to bear. A lost spouse and an abusive spouse can be two different things. I mean, I know one couple right now that the husband just loves his wife to death. I mean, takes care of her, cares for her, does everything for her. He's the only one that makes money in that household. They have one child together. He takes care of all her needs and much of her wants. And he is not mean to her about it. But to the best of my knowledge, he is lost. So don't confuse lost with abusive. And again, just hold on. Because like I said, if everything I've mentioned in this video are all just coincidences, right down to having that dream that night and my cat waking me up, because otherwise if he hadn't, I probably wouldn't have remembered it because it was pretty non-eventful. I didn't get the butterflies in my stomach. I didn't shoot up into the air. And I believe that happened the way it did for a reason. So that I would know that that was my being awakened on purpose so that I would remember the dream. For all this stuff, are just a bunch of coincidences, well, wow. Just wow. And, as far as people telling you, nope, all this stuff's happened before. This is nothing to see here. Well, maybe eschatology just isn't their thing. Um, we're all different parts in one body, and we all have different assignments. We all have things that we're better at than, say, maybe someone else. And I believe some of us were meant to pay attention to end time signs, but not all of us. But that doesn't mean you're not seeing what you're seeing. So keep looking up. Again, if you would please keep my son in your prayers, I would greatly appreciate it. Just hold on, hang on. I believe that trumpet is going to sound soon. And I truly believe this year. I'm not going to set a date. That's something else I want to talk about, is people that set dates, because I think we're just all way too tired at this point for people to still be setting dates, and that date come and go and it not even be acknowledged. But anyway, I believe this year is a really good candidate. So just hold on and remember, Jesus is already in the future. He's got a plan. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason you're going through what you're going through. It is not in vain. I love you, my brothers and sisters. God be with you all.